In today's video, we're going to look at some of the major platforms to publish your webcomic of this moment, talking in 2020. What are the pros and cons of each and which one is best for you? Welcome back to Pencils and Stories. My name is Henrike and I make and teach comics. If you want to make your own comics as well, then subscribe to this YouTube channel for weekly videos. I want to start out by saying that no webcomic platform is perfect, but there might be one here that actually is perfect for you. So today we're going to talk about webtoons or line a webtoon. We're going to talk about tapas or tapastic. I don't know why these two have like two names by which they are known. Which one is it? I don't actually know. Social media platforms and Patreon, and then the big one, which is your own website, specifically WordPress. So without further ado, let's dive in. So first off is line webtoon. I actually have some experience with webtoon because I uploaded a Recollection City there for a while. The entire prologue is up, but because I make my comic specifically, first of all, for my WordPress website, I actually had to convert my pages into their vertical episode scrolling format, and that took so long. Like, it took so much time out of my week that I was like, this is not sustainable for me. So I stopped uploading there. I have some experience with it. The pros of webtoons, first of all, of course, is that it has a built-in audience, and that audience is specifically looking to read comics. So that's a very, very big plus. They have a system where people can subscribe to your comic. They will be notified the moment you post a new episode. It has built-in comments people can like, which can boost up your ranking on the site. And it's free. There is also an opportunity to be discovered on the website and actually get paid for making your comic, but this is very rare. Your comic has to be either very good, very popular, or they have to see something in it. Don't go on that website with that goal, but if they do contests, which they sometimes do, then I would definitely, think about making a short comic, making a comic for those contests, so you at least have a chance to maybe get paid for making comics. I mean, how cool is that? Webtoons comes with cons as well. In my experience, the website's kind of clunky. I have a lot of trouble logging in for some reason. It doesn't want to accept my password. Sometimes it does. I don't know why. Like, I have no idea what causes it, but it's really frustrating if you want to publish your comic and you cannot log in. Also, if you want to engage with other comics and stuff, you need to be logged in as well. So that for me is an issue. Their help service wasn't of much use to me. It feels like they are either like swamped with messages so they cannot respond to everybody, or they're not very into customer service. I'm not quite sure, but that wasn't much help. If you're not logged in and you want to read comics, sometimes it will pop up a box that have you put in your birthday. And then, it forgets which comic you want to go to. So you're on the home page again, and then you have to find the link again to the comic that you want to read. It's a little clunky. What I also find to be a huge drawback is that there is no comment system. Webtoon will not let you know that you got any comments on your comic. So especially if you have a lot of episodes, just kiss that whole engagement goodbye. Because who has time to go to every single episode to check if there's new comments below it? Also, it's hard to get people off of webtoons to somewhere else. If you have an email list or you have a Kickstarter, you have to really put in a lot of effort to get people to leave webtoons, especially if they're an app. Like, nobody likes going from an app to the browser on their phone or whatever. So it is really hard. Like, webtoons obviously want you to stay on webtoon, so there's no good way to put in any links or whatever. It's just people don't like leaving the site either. They're reading comics, that's why they're there. One other thing that I noticed, because I'm an internet dinosaur, I've been on the internet since internet became mainstream, and I'm very much used to reading comics on people's own specific websites, and there's a culture there that people really come to that website to read your comic, but also to connect with you. And people are usually understanding, when you only post one page a week, or, you have to take a break or whatever. On a webtoon, I get the feeling that there's a certain kind of audience that is very used to having very regular updates and then pretty high volume of like content in one go. Some episodes are super long, and obviously those are usually made by people who get paid by webtoons. And then there's the Discover section, which has people who are not being paid, but who make the comic in their own time. And I think it's better now, but especially in the beginning of Webtoon, I really noticed there were a lot of people who just, I felt like, did not understand the amount of work that is involved in making a comic, and people were a little demanding faster updating or demanding more content in one episode. Like I said, I think it changed. I think it became better. I see less of those comments now, but in the beginning, I was like, wow, this audience, like, I mean, we're not studios here. You're also more often just being known as the author. That's also a thing that I noticed that I'm not used to when reading comics like on their own dedicated website. So those are little differences. I wouldn't say they are cons. I mean, maybe you want to be super anonymous, that's super fine. And the last con of Webtoons is that it is very, very competitive. You really still have to do a lot of work, a lot of marketing to get people to come to your comic and to subscribe. But a pro, again, is they can subscribe to your comic, which means they will be notified, so you drop off their radar a little less easy. So that's a very good thing about Webtoon. And then we have Tapastic, or Tapas, I don't know which one it is. And it's slightly the same. It has a lot of the same pros, which is, again, it is a free platform. You post your comic and go. There's building comments. People go there specifically to read webcomics. They have an app. People can subscribe to your comic and everything. I feel like the audience on Tapas is way more forgiving if you post your pages as is. Maybe that changed a little bit because they are heavily promoting their app. But that was my experience. Like, I don't have experience posting on Tapas, but I am reading comics on Tapas, and that's something that I noticed in the comments way less than on Webtoons. On Webtoons, people really expect you to post in that episode format, and on Tapas, I see more pages being posted, just the squarish kind of pages. I still would advise you to design your comic as people are reading it on that platform, and since Tapas is an app, I would still design the comic to be read well on mobile, which means vertical scrolling is the best way to go also for that one, but you can post your pages there if you want to. Tapas has built-in monetization tools. They feature ads, and I'm not super into it, but they also have their own currency. You can get paid by that currency as well. You know, on Webtoon, actually the only option you have is a link of Patreon to it, but on Tapastic you have more monetization options. Tapas also has a really good forum. It has a pretty elaborate forum. It has a lot of comic creators, so it's very easy to make connections with other comic creators, you know, maybe collaborate or, you know, support each other's comics. So that's really nice. I think the atmosphere there is really nice. So that's a big plus as well. One thing about Tapastic, and I really believe this has changed over the years, but Tapastic has been known to have controversies. They had a huge one, I think it was 2016 or 17. They suddenly changed their terms of service, and they had a clause in there that basically said they wanted first rights to anything outside of your comic, which like if you wanted to monetize it through a TV series or movies, or you were going to pitch your comic to other parties, they wanted to be the first party that you pitched it to. So they wanted first rights to your comic story. And, you know, it's their terms of service. They can put in there whatever they want. And that's a point I want to make about these third-party platforms, but I will get to that later. They can basically put in there whatever they want. But it was just very silently put in there. And then 2 weeks after or something, people started pointing it out. And then it became this huge thing online, and people didn't really like it. And what I did not like was the way they responded to people. There were staff members in the forums, and the way they responded was with annoyance and kind of like, why are you making such a fuss? And it's not that big of a deal. And I was like, no, this is people's creative properties. These are stories they spend hours on, characters they love, and they want to have full control over their story, which I totally get. So I did not really like the way they responded. And then there was a story that was coming out about Tapastic having been another company in the past. Before Tapastic was Tapastic, they were Comic Panda. And the people who were pitching Comic Panda to investors, basically, a lot of comics just reposted their comics on the new version of Comic Panda to show to investors. That was highly shady. That is not a good thing to do. You cannot just use people's comics for your own personal profit. That has since been addressed by Michael's son, who is one of the chief staff members at Tapastic. And he actually had a good response to somebody who reached out to him about that. He said the people who did that actually don't work with Tapas anymore, and it's against their policies and against the morals of Tapastic. He mentions all those transgressions go against the ethos of Tapas, and we've always championed creators' rights and freedoms while publishing on the platforms. As you've mentioned, we have performed DMCA and other takedowns on behalf of the creators. So I choose to believe that. They also deleted that one clause that I was talking about the first rights. They deleted that from their terms of service. So they are listening to creators. I still wanted to mention it because, it was a huge thing. And I did not like the way it was handled at that time. They've learned from it. Obviously, there's no other huge controversies. But that was not, that made me decide to not go with Tapas and to go with Webtoons, actually. And this is a point I actually want to make about third-party platforms, because they own their website. They don't own your content. Like, they will have clauses that say, like, we don't own your content and stuff. They don't. But they own the platform. They can do whatever they want with it. If they want to make interface changes, if they suddenly want to delete all your comments, if they want to quit their service, if they want to make it a paid service, they can do all of those things. It's well within their rights. They're a business and they need to make money. So putting your comic on those sites, always remember that you're on hired territory. You agree with their terms of service at the start. When they change the term of service, you have the opportunity to delete your comic from there. It's basically all you can do if you no longer agree with it. One point I really want to make: if you go with a third-party platform, have an email list, because that way you can kind of funnel your biggest fans onto an email list. And if you ever have to change places, hosting, if you ever want to do anything with merch, Kickstarter launches, whatever it is, you can very easily send an email to those people. And that's the reason to have an email list. Because if you pick one of those platforms and that's your main thing, your main source of income, that is all you have. If that goes away, so do all your fans, and so will all your revenue streams. So with an email list, you can simply direct them somewhere else, or say, hey, I'm selling prints now, in my print shop, so you can direct people there. And it's easier to get people to click a link in an email than it is to let them click a link on Webtoon or Tapastic. So that's why I always advocate for having an email list and making people regularly aware on your social media and in your maybe at the end of your comic, have a few nice images or you as a drawing talking about your email list, and making sure that people have the opportunity and they know that there's an email list that they can sign up for, so they can stay updated on anything related to their favorite comic. Another third-party platform is one of the social media channels: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't really like Twitter for comics, but a lot of people use it, especially for like single comics. It totally works. But there's whole Facebook pages that just post, gag-a-day comics. People post that on Instagram as well. They will cut up the panels, and every single panel is one of those swipe things in your feed. So that can work really well. Some people have a social media platform as their main publishing platform. It works. Social media is a little bit more fleeting, I feel like, but it has some pros in that it's highly shareable content. People can, especially like on Facebook, they can tag their friends in the comments because they think something is funny or relatable. Your comic can spread to a lot of people. It's a very frictionless way to post, and you can also post other things that are related to your comic, but not necessarily the comic itself, in a more easy way than you can on like Tapas. If you have a Twitter account or an Instagram account, you can post some related stuff, something related to your subject that you're making a comic about, or share other artists' comics and stuff in your Instagram stories. You know, you can do all kinds of stuff like that and build more of a brand around your comic. Even though these platforms don't really like it when you link to external content, and they will hide, like especially Facebook, it will really hide your posts when you post, you know, links, very obvious links to other websites. But it's easier to post links to external stuff for people. It's way easier. Especially like if you post a comic and then in the comments, one of the first comments say, hey, you want to get this comic from our shop, you can now buy it, and then link. You can even run ads on things like Facebook and Instagram if you want to, for your comic to really build an audience there. And it's then very easy to have a Facebook page to direct people to. A lot of people use it as a second place to post. They will have their own website or post somewhere else, and then also post it on social media. That might be a smart thing to do. And I also think it works the best for standalone comics because it's less easy to just have a reading spree, just sit down and read through a bunch of comics on Facebook or Instagram. I know a dedicated actual webcomic platform is better for that. So for Gag Day comics, things that, you know, you don't have to read in a serialized form, I actually think that works better. The cons, obviously, is the algorithm. Only a small portion of your audience will actually see your content on social media. You know, you just have to have numbers to get a lot of readers. Not everybody will see it. It's very fleeting. If they miss it, they miss it. You know, if there's links in there, Facebook will push it down in the algorithm and stuff. So that's a very big con to social media. People are not updated. There's no notification system. Not really. On these platforms that lets people know that you posted a new comic. Also, I feel like there's more theft on social. It's very easy for your comic to get separated from your page and your name and all of that stuff, and people just reposting it, and then it gets shared over and over and nobody knows where it comes from. So on to the next one, which is Patreon. I wanted to include Patreon here. I'm not gonna, you know, make a huge pro-con list, but I did want to mention it. Patreon is obviously used to put comics behind a paywall. You can post public posts on Patreon. You know, a lot of people do it to like tease their paid content, but Patreon is not really a platform where you can read comics. I don't think the interface works as well for comics regularly, but it can be a way to get paid for your comic. But here is the caveat: you have to have an audience to send to Patreon. It's very hard to make people pay for something that they do not know. If they don't know you as a creator, they've never seen much work from you, the chances that they're gonna pay you for your work are just slim. But if you have made a lot of comics before and people know you and you have built that audience, then you can definitely make an exclusive comic exclusive to Patreon that actually can be an incentive for people to actually start supporting you on Patreon, because they will get more comics from you. Again, I advise against making this your sole source of income, because Patreon can go away. Patreon has had some weird issues in the past with people, you know, getting paid too late and what was that other thing? Patreon has had quite some controversies as well. You know, and that's the case with every single platform. Like, nothing is perfect. You know, have the email list. Also, if you're that far along that you have a big audience that wants to pay you for your comics, please have other streams of income as well. Like sell stickers, sell an art book, do Kickstarters, you know, have multiple streams of income so you're not just dependent on Patreon, because if Patreon goes away, so does your income. And then we have the last platform I wanted to talk about, and that is WordPress. This means having your own dedicated website for your webcomic. So obviously the pros is that you have full control over how your comic looks, how you present your comic, how your website looks. You can put in all kinds of fun pages about the cast of characters, little extras, you know, pictures that people can look at. You can link to other webcomics and have link exchanges to send traffic to each other. You can add all kinds of, you know, fun things on your website. You decide when you update, how much you update. You can send people to external links. You can send them to your email list very easily, to your Patreon, to all kinds of other sites like merch. You can have very obvious links to that, and you can basically design it how you want to. There's also plugins that for example, lets you integrate Patreon inside your website. Or you can integrate Gumroad, for example. So there's all kinds of ways that you can customize your website so you have it, you know, the way you want it to, and that you can promote next to your comic. Let people read your comic. You can promote all kinds of stuff. There's no limitations there. Before you think this sounds very awesome, of course there's cons to WordPress as well. Biggest con is that, especially today, it's now harder than ever to get people to go to a dedicated website. A lot of people read webcomics on Webtoons or Tapastic only because it's just super easy. They log in, they see which comics updated and everything. I've been reading webcomics since they exist, and I just have my own system from back then. You know, I have a folder in my browser with all the comics in there. I know exactly when they update, and that's how I get my webcomic updates. You can also, a lot of websites have an RSS feed that people can subscribe to. But I don't know if RSS feeds are used that much anymore. So people really need to remember that your website exists, that your comic exists. And you're still very dependent on social media to let people know that you updated. Or an email list again. But you need to do a lot of promotion. There's also some downsides to having your own website, which is that it costs you money. So if you want to have the fullest customization, you have to get hosting, pay for hosting. You have your domain name, you have to install WordPress on there and customize it entirely yourself, and all that kind of stuff has a steep learning curve and it costs money. I also pay for backup because you need to back up your website. It's very important to regularly back up your website, and I actually do that automatically, but it is a paid service, so I pay for backup as well. So it can be quite time and cost intensive. But if you want to have full control over your comic, then that is the best way to go. You can definitely host your comic on websites like DeviantArt or, you know, portfolio websites. But you can definitely post, you know, comics on other websites as well, so you have a place where you can gather all your comics. WordPress by far is the way to have a dedicated website specifically for your comic. Is what I use for Recollection City, and that was my goal. Like, I think too, because I grew up going to all of these websites. All those comics have their own little tiny world on the internet where they exist. It's what I like and what I dreamed about when it came to my own comic. It's what I really wanted. That's why I chose WordPress. And then I would just convert it to other platforms to have some more eggs in certain other baskets. Try to increase audiences on other platforms as well. So that's a thing you can choose to, like, post in multiple places. It just takes a lot of time to do that. So that's the thing to keep in mind. But as you can see, there's pros and cons to every single platform. There's no perfect platform. But if you just heard all of this, maybe there is a place that sounded really good to you. And I would say go for it. Make that your primary platform to post on. Like I said, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have that email list. When you decided on your main platform, then you can also make your comic specifically for that platform. So vertical scrolling comic, snippets that you post on Instagram, on your own website, you can do whatever you want. You can make it specifically for that. I actually made a video about the first questions to ask yourself if you're starting out with a comic. And one of the things to think about is publishing platform. The video is called Making Webcomics for Beginners. It's basically a start here video. If you want to start your comic, these are the first questions you need to be asking. The link's in the description, and I also have a notification above my head. If you're still confused, you don't know what to choose, just chill, just pick one. You cannot really go wrong. I mean, yeah, maybe you want to switch platforms later. It's not the end of the world. I mean, it's the same with Recollection City. Like, I have to chop up the pages and stuff for Webtoons. I have to convert it into their format, but it is doable. It just takes a lot of time. But if you really, really don't know, just pick a platform. The most important thing is to start and not let this hold you back. If you need some help with starting your comic, you want to know how to start a comic from scratch, how much pre-production you need to do at the beginning, then I suggest keeping an eye on my upcoming course that I will launch through Kickstarter, and it's called How to Start Your Comic. I have a notification list where I can let you know the moment my course launches through Kickstarter. So go to the link in the description and you can sign up to be notified the moment the course launches. That was it for this week. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, leave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And for now, go out and make some comics.